What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the podcast. Got a special guest by the name of Josh Allen. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
What's going on? What's up, guys? How you doing?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, Josh, bro. I mean, one thing about you that I've noticed, man, is like, you're one guy when I feel like, when it comes to being creative, bro, like you're on top of the game when it comes to that, man. You're a DJ, you're an artist, and you also got the clothing brand as well. And I think for someone to be able to do all those three at a level that you're doing it, man, I think that's dope.
Thank you.
Before we start, bro, give us a little background about yourself, man. Where you from.
Born and raised Third Ward, Texas. Went to West Side High School. Um, Went to college at Johnson Wales University. I did 2 years in Charlotte, and then I did 2 years in North Miami, Charlotte, North Carolina. Then same school, different campus. Had to get out of Charlotte, and and I mean, pretty much like when I went to college, the idea was for me to get a business degree, but the first day of school, I realized they had a fashion program. So I pretty much switched my major like the first day of school, not knowing what I was going to be taught or what the curriculum was going to be. I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know. Like, what could be worse, a fashion degree or business degree? I mean, I don't know. So, but year one, I found myself sort of like in this conversation with my own self of like, are they really teaching me how to be a designer? And I kind of answered my own question just by being in school and not giving up and realizing that they weren't. So I decided to take my textiles class to a different level with using this practice of my curriculum and making my own clothes.
Which one was more of your passion? The fashion, the DJing, or you know what I mean? Which one was like the first thing for you? The DJing, the fashion, or the artwork that you do?
Um, I'm coming to a point that everything that I'm doing has been a part of my life from the jump. So I would arguably say music was first, you know,
Okay.
and that, you know, me falling in love with music and falling in love with musicians and their stories has it gives me the nitrous to like sort of like express myself creatively but with something else, you know. So I would say that with me growing up listening to, groups like A Tribe Called Quest and just like having like an East Coast ear and then being in love with like Kanye West, on levels, it's like music was first, and then with my mom, just having me in like the latest stuff all the time, as far as in like whatever was out, uh and even and I can't even say that because now that it kind of makes me sound like I'm privileged, but like my mom taught me how to shop. She taught me how to dress. She didn't buy shit off the rack. Like she knew how to like make high fashion look, look normal in a way. So I've adapted to like that same rules to where I've been able to like look apart without having to spend an arm and a leg. So that's when like in high school I was able to wear a free dress. Well, shit, like I want to be fresher than everybody, so I would thrift all my Ralph Lauren's versus when everybody would go to the Galleria and get their polos. Like I'll be getting all
Wow.
my polos from like Buffalo Exchange and just out swagging all them niggas in high school because I was like, bro, I gotta out swag you, you know what I mean? And then like with me working at the tipping point store during high school and like me already being in love with sneakers because in middle school, like between like third and like eighth grade, we wore uniforms, so I was like a big sneakerhead. So I feel like even like that was like, a little pre-glimpse of like me like customizing my own, dunks on Nike ID, or me looking at Flight Club and looking at all the color variations of a Nike dunk, and just my brain was just like processing like all of this like information, like all of these things all at one time. And I was sort of just like living through like life in a way, between like, my mom's being swaggy, like my older brother, introducing me to Marangella like months before Kanye went on tour for his Yeezus concert. So it's like I'm listening to Kanye and then I'm looking at the clothes and I'm just like, bro, something is happening with like fashion and how they all intertwine. And like my brain once again was just still just trying to process all of that. So it's like throughout high school with me wearing free dress, that's when I really started tapping into like designer. So by the time I got to college, I was already trying to like, you know, get into like, more depths of like fashion. So that's when, I was like, all right, fuck it. Well, let me take this practice and like launch my own brand. And like, and at the same time, I was painting because I'm I come from like a background of art. So like my grandmother has like John Biggers drawings like all around the house. I didn't learn that John Biggers was like, a very well known African American artist up until like, 2 years ago. Because I didn't study art history. I studied fashion history. So, you know, it's like I was painting, but I just made art just to make art, just kind of like how I made clothes just to make clothes. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know. I was just practicing. I just wanted to be creative. I wanted to use my hands. I wanted to like whatever I saw, or if I was just like talking about it, I wanted to like show that I could like do it. So all throughout like between like college of 2012 to like 2016, and then when I after I graduated from college, that's when I like decided that I wanted to like move to New York and go intern. So I ended up interning for 2 months for Heron Preston. And this was like right before he got like super, super like just like over the top, like, I wouldn't say over the top, but like this is like when he like just like before like he just like blew up, and this is around the same time that like, Off-White was sort of in a developing mode. And then now you've learned that like Off-White and like Heron Preston are made by the same people. But anyways, so I would say like, and even with the DJing, Heron, Virgil, them DJing house music, me like, always looking at DJs and being like, damn, like, I want to DJ, but me playing all my old school hip hop stuff doesn't really get the crowd jumping, doesn't really get anybody dancing. So when I noticed that Heron and Virgil were DJing house music and I would listen to Virgil's mixes, I was like, all right, I think I want to start getting into house music. And
Oh
then
wow,
like it just sort of just
you just
like,
took off.
yeah, like, everything, it just starts to make sense, like the beat of like how I move, like I tell people like house music is like soccer. It's like
Okay,
international tone and such an international approach of like DJing and communicating with like different cultures of people. And that's what I want to do with my clothes. That's what I want to do with my art. That it's all intertwining together.
when you were talking just now, one thing that stood out to me is how like basically like your upbringing and how you was raised is kind of how it all kind of influenced you to who you are now. You know what I mean? To where
For
like you
sure.
became more into the music stuff. Being a DJ, you became a fashion designer. Through your mom, and you became an artist through your grandma. Like parents do certain things, but they don't understand how it impact the kid that's around them. You know what I mean?
For sure. For
And it's like it
sure.
seemed like it impacts you very, very positively. Very positive. You could take what you see as a kid, and now you're who you are. You know what I mean? So I think that's
Absolutely.
dope. So my next thing is bro. So obviously like you being a DJ, you being an artist, and then you being a fashion designer as well. Like, how do you make time for all of this stuff, man? It could be very tedious for some people. You know what I mean? How have you learned to make time for it?
Um, when I created Richard and Grace in college, I wanted to create a brand where there was going to be an endless in-house mood board. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is that whenever I am not wanting to think about clothes, I paint. Whenever I don't want to paint, I think about music. Whenever I don't want to make think about music, I think about clothes. And and I knew that it was gonna I knew how my brain was gonna do that like years ago, which is why I wanted to create an art brand, not just a clothing company. I wanted to create an art brand where I'm working on multiple things, but it's still under one umbrella. It's still under one house. It's still because I wanted to do multiple things. I like photography. I like, you know, I like styling, I like, furniture. There's endless things that I'm interested in, but how do you put that all on under one umbrella? So that's what I did, and that's the idea for Richard and Grace, is just an umbrella of my thoughts, an umbrella of my interests that I'm wanting to share with other people who may have that same interest. You know what I mean? A lot of the clothing does derive from my travels of, Paris, Tokyo, Berlin, Shanghai. I definitely had the blessings to be able to travel the world, and I'm just bringing all of that back to the city that I'm from. And learning art history, I've been able to sort of view like the art district and the museum district differently, and able to see how I can communicate what I like through even like the art community that's here in Houston. And it's sort of like saying like I'm inspired because of like what's already been in front of us this whole time. Like we have a huge contemporary, abstract, and modern art community here in Houston. Those are all of the things that I like. And so now I'm just owning it and understanding where it comes from. I'm meshing that with my clothing now. To where it's like when people are wearing my clothing, they understand this same interest. They understand this philosophy. They understand that they're representing something, not only, the message behind the pattern chaos, but also just like having that interest of what I'm into as well.
With what you're creating with the Richard and Grace brand, it's like sometimes you don't want to make clothes, so you could go ahead and paint. If you don't want to paint, you could do the music thing. When it comes to being an artist, a fashion designer, people usually think outside. You know what I mean? People are not usually thinking like in house or I'm gonna develop in house. But she's like, it's like you're saying like what all I need is right in front of me, and I don't need to go somewhere else to go get it.
Hmm.
And I think that's a dope mindset to have because not a lot of people have that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Because then, you're still creating. Like I feel like I just feel so lifeless when I'm not making something. But I get annoyed when I'm having to like work on like one thing all the time. And sometimes people be like, well, you can be the jack of all trades or a master of none. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm about to be the master of all trades that I'm into.
wow.
Like who say that I can be the master of all trades that I'm into, you know what I mean? Or at least be half as decent. And it's like I have a cup of like, here's my DJ cup, here's my fashion cup, here's like, my paint cup. And it's like I'm just filling each cup individually. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like refill my cup though, it's like living life, reading books, listening, um failing. You can refill your cup through failure.
No,
Like
that's facts. That's
you know
facts.
what I mean?
That's facts.
So like using these you know, things to refill these cups, once these cups become full and they start pouring out the damn glass, people gonna be like, wow, this nigga's really actually good at everything that he's doing right now. And we are seeing more and more people prove that they can do that.
You being able to do all this stuff, bro. I mean, like, it says a lot about yourself because like, most people in the right mind are trying to like stick to one thing. It's not like you're pushing yourself to do it. It's like these are things that you want to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like, and you enjoy doing. These are like, and I've like each things that you're doing like is you expressing yourself in different ways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they all, and I feel like if anyone pay attention to like even the music that you play, the art that you make, even the clothes that you make, they all kind of correlate. You know what I'm saying? That's what I get from it. But to keep going, bro. So obviously, you're where you are now. I mean, what are some of the obstacles that you think you went through in order to get to where you are now?
Just trial and error, failure.
Okay.
Um, weaving through what I feel like I want to wear on a daring level versus
Okay.
what I need to produce on a mass level. I think as a designer, sometimes, and even as an artist, you can create something with the intentions of the average person not being able to consume it for the sake of it being like fashion or for the sake of it being different, and I went down like that road and I just kept going down that road and this road wasn't leading me anywhere.
Wow.
Uh, and ironically it was leading me to not me making any money. And one would argue to say that I was a little bit before my time, but it happens. So right now I'm making sense of the now, giving product for the future, and just having that confidence that I will be able to get to the point that I really really know that I can be at, and the level that I can design at, but I had to like get there first instead of just like designing it or making it, like making a whole collection and not being able to afford to actually like produce the collection, and it just like just sits on Instagram or you know my garment rack or whatever, samples, from the previous collection that I'm not gonna produce. The whole intentions of it was to not produce it. So now I'm getting into the episode of like, all right, we're gonna produce what you see. Like if I'm wearing it, you can buy it. Like I get so many times I'm like wearing my own stuff. People are like, oh my god, I want to buy this. Like, where can I buy it? I'm just like, oh no, it's gonna come out later. Like I'm tired of doing that. Like, if I'm wearing it, I want you to be like, yeah, you can buy this right now.
Oh,
And
wow.
unless it's just something that's already been sold out, like long ago, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like certain items I'm just not gonna restock for the simple fact that I'm just not gonna restock it. But there are also certain items that I never released, and I kind of did it as a concept, and people were like, oh, I want to buy that. And to a certain extent, that's how it should really go, because I've done that before where I did the complete opposite, where it's like I produce something that I don't even know if anybody's gonna buy, and then I have a leftover units. So I don't want to do that.
All right, now, Josh. Obviously, we just talk about some of the obstacles that you went through in order to get here, and you mentioned how just trial and error. You know what I mean? So my next thing is this: like, what advice do you have for your younger self? You know, just from how you are now, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, Focus on the wearables. Focus
Okay.
on the bread and butter, and all
All right.
the glam and glitz is gonna come when it comes. But also too, like keep doing what you're doing, younger self, because what you're doing is leading to what I'm doing now. And if I didn't do what I did when I was younger, I wouldn't have the clarity that I have now. And I'm still young in the design world. I'm still young in the art world. So
True.
go you, younger self. Shout out to me. No regrets, man. No
Another
regrets.
thing, bro. Obviously, like I said, you're a person. Like I keep saying, like I said, you're very versatile in what you do in your creativity, bro. Like I said, you're a DJ. You're an artist. You're a designer. For anyone that wants to either try to be creative or be a designer or being an artist or be a DJ, what advice do you have for them?
Don't be afraid to fail.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to fuck up. It's like I think that's like biggest. I think that's the biggest thing about me is that even if like it's like sometimes it's so funny about me is that I'll have all the confidence in the world that I know that I'll have all the confidence in the world that I know what I'm doing. And then like when I fail at it, I'm like, damn, I actually don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But there's an art to that. And I've done
Okay.
that so many times where I felt like, all right, here we go. This is it. This is it.
True.
And then it's like that wasn't it. And I feel like you got to do that so many times before you be like, oh wow, like I'm getting results. And I
I
think people just want results. I mean, hell, sometimes I've made decisions wanting easier results and then it ended up costing me more money at the end of the day. So it's kind of just follow your flow. Make the
I
mistakes, follow your heart, do your research, um, and just don't be afraid to fail.
Wow. And I also think like that same advice it goes to everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Facts. Facts.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to
No,
fail.
all right, now, Josh. We talked about a lot. We talked about how some of your early life. What influenced you to being where you are today. You also talk about the struggles that you went through, and you also talk about, like the advice that you will give your younger self, and also people that wants to do something great in life. So where can we, for anyone watching, where can we find you, bro? Where can we tap into your work, man? Where can we find you?
At Josh Allen, two J's, two N's, JJOSHALLENN.
Okay.
JoshAllen.com has all my links to, between Richard and Grace and also like my portfolio work. And yeah, I actually DJ at the Flat every Thursday. And I'm actually going to be there tonight. So, if anybody who listens to this want to have an extended conversation beyond this podcast, over a glass of red wine or tequila.
And then definitely, bro, thank you for coming through, man. Thank you for coming to share some words with us. You know,
Absolutely, man. Thanks for
you
having
know,
me.
nah, for sure, man. And then anyone watching this, make sure you like the video, comment, subscribe, and definitely tap in with Josh, man. A very dope, creative person, man. Great DJ, great artist, great fashion designer as well.